About the mysterious Count of Saint Germain. He's been called a prophet, a sorcerer, and an immortal. He's been spotted all over the world for 1,000 years.
In the heart of 18th century Europe, amidst the opulent palaces and grand ballrooms, a figure emerged from the shadows, captivating the elite with an aura of enigma, the Comte de Saint Germain. A man of impeccable elegance. He spoke fluently in countless languages, played the violin with virtuosic mastery, and seemed to possess an almost supernatural knowledge of politics, history, and science. But what left the aristocracy spellbound was not merely his charm or intellect. It was the unshakable sense that this man had lingered among them for far too long, as if he had witnessed generations rise and fall, untouched by the passage of time. Could it be immortality? In 1745, Saint Germain appeared in London. The Earl Horace Walpole noted in his writings that this mysterious figure ate no meat, drank no wine, and spoke as though he had lived everywhere. Barely a few years later, he surfaced in Paris, forging an intimate alliance with Madame de Pompadour, the most powerful mistress of King Louis XIII, in her private accounts. Pompadour described him as a man without age, without a homeland, without a past. What sent shockwaves through the royal court was not his refinement or erudition, but the chilling realization that time itself seemed powerless to touch him. In 1757, the infamous adventurer Casanova encountered Saint Germain in Paris and recorded in his memoirs. Saint Germain appeared to be about 45 years old, yet it was said he had looked this way for over half a century. For the next 3 decades, reports from Austria, Russia, and Prussia described a man identical in every detail, the same piercing gaze, the same resonant voice, the same timeless demeanor. Then, in 1784, a report from Eckernförde, Germany, declared that Saint Germain had died. Yet, the death certificate was peculiar: no cause of death, no attending physician, no witnesses to a burial. And then, the impossible happened, just 9 years later. In 1793, Madame d'Adhémar, in her Souvenir de Marie Antoinette, recounted a chilling encounter in Paris amid the chaos of the French Revolution. There he was, Saint Germain, unchanged, the same silver hair shimmering like spun starlight, the same gentle yet penetrating gaze, and still, impossibly, the appearance of a man in his mid-40s, just as she had seen him decades before. From this moment, the story transcends history and steps into legend. In the 19th century, the mystics of the Theosophical Society revered him as an ascended master, a being who had transcended death, existing on a higher plane of energy, while historians scrambled to dismiss him as a coincidence of many men sharing the same name. Occultists believed Saint Germain had unlocked the secret to escaping the human cycle of aging. If such a thing were true, if a man had indeed crossed the boundary of time itself, what within his being could have forced death to retreat? And are we speaking of a mere legend, or a biological secret buried for over 2 centuries? If the 18th century was the dawn of reason and science, Saint Germain stood as a defiant anomaly, an alchemist in a world turning its back on alchemy. Unlike the dreamers chasing gold, he approached alchemy with the precision of an experimental scientist. Court records from France revealed that Saint Germain performed astonishing demonstrations before King Louis XV, crafting artificial diamonds, creating indelible dyes, and forging stainless alloys technologies far beyond the reach of his era. Modern historians call these bizarre experiments, but to those who witnessed them, they were nothing short of calculated miracles. Among the scholars of his time, Saint Germain was regarded as a master of chemistry, physics, mineralogy, and optics. He spoke of light, sound, and energy as if they could directly influence the human body. In a manuscript marked Philosophorum 1757, SG, he wrote of the resonance of light and crystals to rebalance the body. The phrase sounds mystical, yet it bears a striking resemblance to modern resonance therapy, a cutting-edge field in electromagnetic medicine where specific frequencies of light and electric fields stimulate cellular activity. Another document, penned by Prince Karl of Hesse-Kassel, a collaborator in his research, describes Saint Germain conducting experiments with light and living metals. The term living metals remains a mystery, but it evokes modern concepts of bioactive conductive materials metals that respond to electromagnetic fields in ways akin to human tissue. This leads to a tantalizing hypothesis. What if Saint Germain wasn't chasing gold, but rather the perfect vibrational frequency of living matter, a frequency he believed could preserve cells in a state of stasis? halting the aging process, if true. His alchemical feats were not superstition, but the first recorded attempt to harness bioenergetic principles centuries before the world understood bioelectricity or cellular resonance. Could Saint Germain's alchemy have unlocked the secret to eternal youth that modern science still pursues? Not everyone believes the Comte de Saint Germain was a single man. Some historians argue that the legend of the immortal man is merely a conflation of multiple individuals sharing the same name, amplified by the exaggerations of awestruck witnesses. Discrepancies in Saint Germain's recorded travels fuel this skepticism at times. He was documented in France and Prussia within the same year, even the same month, an impossibility for a single person in the 18th century. Modern researchers suggest that Comte de Saint Germain may have been a fabricated title, used by spies and diplomats to mask their identities during the turbulent years before the French Revolution. The most famous account tied to him, Madame d'Ademar's Souvenir de Marie Antoinette, is equally contentious. Archival experts note that no original manuscript exists, and the 1836 published version bears the literary style of the 19th century. Starkly different from the prose of Louis XIV's era, it's likely a fabricated work, capitalizing on Europe's fascination with the occult. Yet, this very text is the sole source claiming Saint Germain's reappearance in 1793, making it the crux of every debate. Still, amid the contradictions, there are physical traces that resist dismissal. In the French Royal Archives, 2 handwritten letters bearing the wax seal SG were sent to Madame de Pompadour in 1760. Analysis of the seals reveals patterns matching the symbols of the Rosicrucians, a secretive order devoted to alchemy and natural philosophy. These letters discuss European politics, with Saint Germain warning of the collapse of thrones if the court ignores the echoes of time, a phrase later interpreted as a prophecy of the French Revolution. Diplomatic records from France and the correspondence of Prince Karl of Hesse-Kassel confirm that Saint Germain was indeed a real figure, moving among Europe's elite, attending clandestine meetings, and serving as an unofficial diplomatic advisor. Though fragmented, these documents paint a picture of a man with undeniable political influence and a vast network spanning the continent. It is this very clash between verified evidence and wild legend that makes Saint Germain so elusive. Voltaire described him as a man who knows everything, yet no one knows him. Casanova called him a suspected charlatan. But one never caught in the act, and in the diaries of Prince Karl of Hesse, he is hailed as a great philosopher who could command light itself. 3 accounts, 3 wildly different portraits all pointing to one man. Or perhaps many. A new theory emerges. What if Saint Germain was not a name, but a title, passed down through generations within Europe's esoteric societies, blending science, religion, and mysticism? This could explain why his image shifts across centuries, yet retains the same face, the same symbols, the same quest for immortality. If Saint Germain spoke the truth that he could extend life through light and sound, what once seemed fantastical is no longer alien to science. Over the past decade, research into cellular aging has unveiled a staggering truth. Biological age is not fixed. It can be reversed. In 2013, geneticist Steve Horvath introduced the concept of the epigenetic clock, a method to measure cellular age through DNA methylation patterns. When scientists applied the 4 Yamanaka factors to reprogram cells forcing DNA to revert to a younger state, they found that muscle, liver, and even neural tissue could rejuvenate by decades. This phenomenon sounds miraculous, but at its core, it involves manipulating the vibrational frequency of the genome, eerily akin to what Saint Germain described, albeit in the language of the 18th century. The field of bioelectromagnetics offers another lens. Studies from 2020 to 2025 reveal that weak electromagnetic fields can regulate circadian rhythms, accelerate tissue regeneration, and alter metabolic processes. A healthy cell vibrates at an average frequency of 50 to 70 Hz. When this frequency drops, aging begins. This prompts a provocative question: if we could resynchronize these cellular oscillations, could we pause the aging process? In his 1757 Philosophorum manuscript, Saint Germain wrote, "When light and sound merge with the blood, destruction ceases." Once dismissed as mystical jargon, this phrase now echoes the modern concept of synchronization of cellular oscillations in energy medicine. In this state, all biological processes align at an ideal frequency, a point where decay halts, and the body enters a temporary invariant state. The experiments described by Prince Karl of Hesse-Kassel involving Saint Germain's light and living metals, lend further weight to this theory. If he indeed used materials responsive to light to generate electromagnetic vibrations that influence the body, he may have pioneered a primitive form of resonance therapy now explored through lasers, sound waves, and electric fields in modern labs. A unified picture begins to emerge. Saint Germain was not a prophet or sorcerer, but a visionary experimentalist, centuries ahead of his time, who may have glimpsed the connection between energy, light, and biological rejuvenation. Not so remarkably. While today's experiments by Horvath or Yamanaka unfold in cutting-edge laboratories, their findings mirror the very ideas Saint Germain penned in an age of candles and mercury flasks. Perhaps alchemy was never about gold, but about reforging the human body itself. If so, Saint Germain was not truly immortal. He may have simply paused his biological clock, suspending his body in a state of temporal stasis. And perhaps, in the 21st century, as science uses resonant energy to rejuvenate cells, we are merely rediscovering what Saint Germain uncovered over 200 years ago. When Saint Germain vanished from historical records at the close of the 18th century, it seemed his story would fade like so many legends before him. Yet, over a century later, his name resurfaced not as a nobleman or alchemist, but as an ascended master, a metaphysical icon in the dawn of a new esoteric age. In 1875, Russian mystic Helena P. Blavatsky and Annie Besant founded the Theosophical Society, an international order blending Western knowledge, Indian philosophy, and natural science in their teachings. Saint Germain was portrayed as a spiritual entity who had transcended the cycle of reincarnation, ascending to a higher vibrational plane where the soul exists as pure energy, unbound by matter. According to Blavatsky, ascended masters were once human. Having evolved through thousands of lifetimes, they guide humanity's spiritual progress by transmitting vibrations to those attuned to their frequency. Among these masters, Saint Germain was hailed as the embodiment of the violet flame, a symbol of transformation, purification, and rebirth. This ideology swept through Europe and America, riding the wave of the early 20th century spiritual revival. By 1930, an American named Guy Ballard claimed to have encountered Saint Germain in a body of light while hiking Mount Shasta. This meeting became the cornerstone of the I Am activity movement, where Saint Germain was venerated as the guardian of the New Age. Ballard described him appearing in a blaze of violet light, imparting secrets of vibrational energy and proclaiming that humanity could master reality by aligning with the right frequency of consciousness. At first glance, this sounds like religious mythology. Yet, ironically, the concepts of vibration, frequency, and light energy used by Theosophy and the I Am activity align uncannily with the language of modern biophysics. Research in bioelectromagnetics and cellular resonance therapy speaks of electromagnetic vibrations, of how light, sound, and magnetic fields can recalibrate biological rhythms and trigger tissue regeneration. This convergence prompts a profound question. Were Blavatsky's higher vibrational planes merely spiritual metaphors, or an ancient way of describing energy states that science is only now beginning to unravel? When she spoke of a soul synchronizing with the rhythm of the universe, could this have been a 19th century articulation of resonance synchronization? Now measurable through brainwaves and heart rhythms. Thus, at the crossroads of mysticism and science, Saint Germain stands as a singular figure, a bridge between the material and the metaphysical, a translator between the worlds of energy and consciousness. More than 2 centuries have passed since the Comte de Saint Germain vanished from history, yet his name refuses to rest. From the halls of Versailles to the sterile laboratories of modern biology, his story endures a symbol of the fragile line between myth and science, stripped of its mystical veil. One truth emerges: Saint Germain may not have lived forever, but his ideas were centuries ahead of his time. He spoke of light, sound, and energy shaping the human body in an era unaware of cells or bioelectricity. Today, what was once dismissed as alchemy is being validated by science that energy can indeed transform living matter, that biological age can be reversed, that cellular vibrations are not mere esoteric symbols, but the very language of life. From this perspective, Saint Germain is more than a legend. He is a mirror reflecting humanity's oldest aspiration to conquer time through knowledge. From alchemy to quantum physics, from prayers for immortality to DNA research, We have always walked the same path, probing the limits of life and how to transcend them. What sets Saint Germain apart is not his longevity, but his vision. He believed death was not an endpoint, but a state of energy that could be altered, just as modern scientists now view aging as a program that can be switched off in our genes. His immortality, perhaps, lies not in his body, but in his ability to inspire those who continue to chase the secrets of time. In the 21st century, as geneticists work to slow the epigenetic clock and biophysicists experiment with cellular resonance, humanity may be treading the very path Saint Germain began in the shadows of the 18th century. He was an alchemist in an age of reason. Today, we are scientists in an age of technology united by a shared dream to bend time itself. And if Saint Germain truly found a way to slow time within his own body, that secret has not been lost. It is being rediscovered not in candlelit alchemical chambers, but in the cold, sterile laboratories where humanity is rewriting the very definition of death.